Hello, everyone. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the basics of the APA style for academic writing. I'll be telling you what the APA is, and also we'll be looking at citations in particular. In future videos, I'll be telling you about how to format your references and how to include a reference page to your paper. So let's begin. Now, what is the APA? Well, if you think about it, writing can be quite chaotic. If we were to each write our own articles in our own unique way, then it would be very difficult for people to make sense of what anything means because people would be doing things differently. I would be including my sources in one way, and you would be doing it in another. So a reader might get confused. They might not know what a particular number means, or what a particular symbol means, or where should the title go? Where should we place the page numbers? So you see, in order to make this all more uniform, and in order for everyone to follow the same style and format, associations such as the APA have come up with a series of guidelines which we can all follow. And we have different kinds of styles. So APA is only one of many. We have the MLA, we have Chicago, we have Harvard style. There are many, many different styles out there. But the APA, which is often used in the social sciences and behavioral sciences, stands for an organization. The acronym stands for the organization, the American Psychological Association. So basically, these are a group of people who got together and agreed upon a series of guidelines for everyone to follow. And in many colleges and universities, students are required to follow the APA style in formatting their papers and including citations and references. So, the basics of the APA. Well, there are two things you need to know. You need to know how to use citations and how to include references. So, what is the difference between a citation and a reference? Well, a citation is a quotation from a reference book, a paper, or a particular author. So if I've read someone's ideas and I want to include it in my paper, I think it's interesting, I think it's relevant to what I'm writing about, I will include a citation. A reference, on the other hand, gives readers more details about the source. For example, is it a book? Is it an article? Is it a web page? What is this source? When was it published? Where was it published? How can I find it? So we're basically giving readers information about the sources that we have found in order to help them find that source for themselves if necessary. So let's look at an example. Imagine I'm writing a paper, and in this paper I'm writing about climate change. So I start my paragraph by saying climate change is one of the greatest challenges facing human beings in the 21st century. Okay, so do I need a reference for that? No, because this is my knowledge. This is something that I know to be true. I probably have read it here and there. I've heard about it. I have listened to talks and lectures, but this information isn't coming from one of those sources. It's something that I hold, that I know to be true. So I'm mentioning it in my paper. The second sentence is, it is frequently discussed by politicians and environmental activists around the world. This is a fact. This isn't something that anyone would need to support. It's not something that I've discovered. It's common knowledge. So as you can see, for these types of information, there is no need for a citation. Now, as I'm doing research on the topic, on climate change and global warming, I come across this book here. It's called Global Warming, The Complete Briefing by John Houghton. Okay, 4th edition. This is a book. I find it, I read it, I find it interesting, and I find it relevant. And I'm like, okay, some of the information in this book is very interesting. I would like to include it in my own paper. So then what happens is I have the first 2 sentences that I'd already written. And then by reading different parts of the book, so it's not like I read a particular page or a particular paragraph. No, I read various chapters and I came to an understanding that windstorms, hurricanes, and floods are some of the consequences of this rapid change in global temperatures. So maybe there's a separate chapter for each. One chapter for windstorms, one chapter for hurricanes, and one chapter for floods. So as you can see, this knowledge comes from the book, but it doesn't belong to any particular page, paragraph, or sentence. It's something that I've taken away by generally reading various parts of the book. Now, would it be okay for me to add this sentence to my paragraph without mentioning the source? Well, no, because you got to give credit where credit is due. This is not my idea. This is something that I got from the book. And the author of that book deserves to be credited for this information. So I'm going to add a citation here. I've got the first 2 sentences that I read before, and now I'm adding a sentence that says, windstorms, hurricanes, and floods are some of the consequences of this rapid change in global temperatures. I'm adding a parentheses to the end of my sentence. I've included the author's last name, Houghton, comma, and the year in which the book was published, which is 2009. This is called a parenthetical citation. I think it's pretty obvious why it's called parenthetical citation. I could have also done this in another way. Now, this is the exact same paragraph. The only difference is, instead of adding the citation to the end and placing the author's last name and year inside parentheses, I've written it in this way. According to Houghton, 2009, notice that only 2009 is placed inside parentheses. Windstorms, hurricanes, and floods are some of the consequences of this rapid change in global temperatures. So this is the same citation in a different format. The previous citation was called a parenthetical citation. This citation is called an in-text citation because the author's name is embedded in my sentence and within the text that I'm writing. So, what's the difference? Let's review. A parenthetical citation is a citation where the author's name and year of publication appear inside parentheses, usually at the end of the sentence that's been cited. In an in-text citation, the name of the author is embedded into my sentence, and only the year of publication is placed inside parentheses. So the first one is called a parenthetical citation, and the second one is called an in-text citation. Does it matter which one you use? No, not really. It all depends on how much focus you want to place on the source of that information. Do you want to emphasize who the author was, or is it just something that you're mentioning in passing? That will, to some extent, determine whether you use the parenthetical or the in-text citation format. All right, now let's say as I'm reading through the book, I reach this part where there's a title, What is Global Warming? So I'm like, okay, this is really relevant. I'm going to find some useful information. So I read the page and then I come across this sentence here that I find particularly interesting. The sentence is, every year, these emissions currently add to the carbon already present in the atmosphere a further 8,000 million tons, much of which is likely to remain there for a period of 100 years or more. So we all know that carbon dioxide is one of the causes of global warming and climate change. Okay, now the writer is giving me specific amounts and detailed information regarding how much carbon dioxide we're producing and how that's affecting the environment. So I want to include that into my my paragraph. Now, notice that this time I am not referring to something that's spread across the whole book, but rather I'm referring to a particular sentence that I found on a particular page and in a specific paragraph. Now, how am I going to include this? Well, first time round, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say carbon dioxide emissions are largely responsible for the situation we are facing today. So I'm sort of like linking what I'd previously written to what I want to include. So I first want to say, carbon dioxide is responsible. And now I'm going to add the sentence that I read in the book after this green sentence here. So this is like a bridge, and I'm going to add the sentence after it. Take a look. Climate change is one of the greatest challenges facing human beings in the 21st century. It is frequently discussed by politicians and environmental activists around the world. So this is the first sentence, no need for citations, first two sentences. Then I have windstorms, hurricanes, and floods are some of the consequences of this rapid change in global temperatures. I add the source as a parenthetical citation. And then the bridging sentence, carbon dioxide emissions are largely responsible for the situation we are facing today. And now, in the format of an in-text citation, I'm going to add that sentence we had. According to Houghton, now notice that I'm paraphrasing. 8,000 million tons of carbon dioxide are annually added to the atmosphere, and this will stay in the atmosphere for at least 100 years. Now, if you remember the previous sentence, this is different. I've changed the wording. I've paraphrased it. I've put it into my own words, do you see? This is called an indirect citation. So, as you can see, here we have an original sentence, and then we have a paraphrased form. So the original sentence says at least 100 years. My sentence says a period of 100 years or more. Or I think it's the other way around. The first one is my sentence, and the second one is the sentence that existed in the original. So paraphrasing is key. Whenever you paraphrase, you end up having an indirect citation. But a direct citation, on the other hand, is when we quote. So here we have the exact same paragraph. The blue part at the bottom is a direct citation. According to Houghton, 2009, page 13, every year these emissions currently add to the carbon already present in the atmosphere a further 8,000 million tons, much of which is likely to remain there for a period of 100 years or more. It's a direct citation. I haven't changed anything, and I've used quotation marks to show that this is a direct citation. So as you can see, the difference is I've mentioned the page number and I've used quotation marks to show that this is a direct quotation. All right, let's sum things up. What are the differences between a direct citation and an indirect citation? A direct citation includes a quotation, whereas an indirect citation is paraphrased. Direct citation has quotation marks. Indirect citation doesn't. Page numbers are included in a direct citation, but not in an indirect citation. And finally, in both, we include the writer's name and date. Thank you so much for watching this video.